We saw the first ever doubleheader in NASCAR history. And it was ass. Let's get into it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packerman, and welcome to today's edition of the Fuel. Where today we're going to be reviewing the doubleheader weekend at Pocono, which saw the Pocono Organics 325 and the Pocono 350. I'm just going to cut to the chase here. Both races fucking sucked. It was complete and total garbage, and it was basically, we saw similar strategies and similar results in both races. I mean, complete fucking bore fests all around. So, before we get into all that though, let's get a quick rundown of the news of the week. Alright, so to kind of put a period on the whole news thing that happened at Talladega the previous week, NASCAR released a statement that basically says the FBI has completed its investigation at Talladega Superspeedway and determined that Bubba Wallace was not the target of a hate crime. The FBI report concludes and photographic evidence confirms that the garage door pull rope fashioned like a noose had been positioned there since as early as last fall. This was obviously well before the 43 team's arrival and garage assignment. We appreciate the FBI's quick and thorough investigation and are thankful to learn that this was not an intentional racist act against Bubba. We remain steadfast in our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all who love racing. Now, did NASCAR kind of jump the gun a little bit when it came to this whole news situation? Yeah, it looks like it. But I mean, when you look at the pictures that were released, I mean, it did look like a noose. So, I mean, it was definitely they definitely jumped the gun, I think, a little bit. And, basically releasing that statement before the FBI was done with their investigation. But, I mean, in this case, when you look at the pictures, I mean, can you really blame them for reacting the way they did? So, it is what it is. I mean, I know people have been kind of ragging on NASCAR about it, but, let's just put it to bed and move on. It is what it is at this point. But the other bit of piece of news is on the Indianapolis 500. They are going to have a 50% venue capacity for the Indianapolis 500 this year. According to IMS President J. Douglas Bowles, we're committed to running the Indy 500 on Sunday, August 23rd, and will welcome fans to the world's greatest racing venue. We will be limiting attendance to approximately 50% of venue capacity. And we are also finalizing a number of additional carefully considered health and safety measures. We'll unveil the specific details of our comprehensive plan in the coming weeks. So obviously the COVID-19 pandemic is still on the minds of everybody. So, and with the uncertainty surrounding it, then, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. At least we're going to have fans at the Indianapolis 500. And it's still going to be a shit ton of fans. Because when you have seating for 250,000 people, that's still a hell of a lot of people. They're going to watch the Indianapolis 500. But with the news of the week out of the way, let's go ahead and get through this doubleheader review. Alright, let's go ahead and breeze right through this. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really kind of tired. I mean, I just got done with a 10-hour day at work, and we got to do it for the next 3 days. Yay, in 90-degree heat, no less. So let's try to get through this as quickly as possible. So the Saturday race, the Pocono Organics 325, stages were, stage 1 was 25 laps, stage 2 52 laps, stage 3 53 laps, halfway point was 65 laps. So Eric Almirola drew the pole for the race. The race was delayed a bit due to light rain. Finally got the race started at 4:50 p.m. Blaney got super loose in turn 1 under Almirola, but hangs on. Almirola leads lap 1. Had a battle for second between Blaney, Logano, and Kyle Busch. Logano gets by Blaney for second, and then we had the competition caution on lap 13. Some cars come in for service. Almirola leads on the restart. It's in 5 wide on the restart. And we got our second caution on lap 17 when Quinn House spins off turn 2 after getting loose. So Almirola leads on the restart there as well. Logano gets the lead in turn 1, but it was on the restart, so no pure lead changes. Several drivers come in for service before the pit closes for the stage end, which, you know, is pretty typical for Pocono considering that it's 2.5 miles in length. And Joey Logano wins stage number 1. So he will lead the start of stage number 2. Almirola gets the lead back in turn 1 on the restart. Kyle Busch gets in a tight spot between Newman and Bell in the tunnel turn, but somehow makes it through. Blaney was the first to pit under green after staying out the first 39 laps. Almirola pits from the lead on lap 46. Truex inherits the race lead, and this is when the race really got boring, and I was just like, oh. Hamlin starts hounding Truex for the race lead, and we have our first pure lead change on lap number 60 when Hamlin gets by Truex. And then we have our third caution on lap 65 when John Hunter Nemechek makes contact with J.J. Yeley in turn 3 and cuts down the 27's right front tire. On a brighter note, we did make it to halfway at this point. A lot of the leaders pit under this yellow, so Almirola stays out and leads on the restart. Byron getting freight trained on both sides. Then we have our fourth caution on lap 72. Tyler Reddick spins himself and Eric Jones into the pit wall after Jones checks up for a slower car off of turn 3. So that puts both cars out of the race. Several cars come in for service. Almirola leads on the restart with 2 to go in stage 2. Hamlin tries to go 3 wide for 5th, but it doesn't work, and Eric Almirola wins stage 2. Everyone comes in for service. Almirola wins the race off of pit road, and Chase Elliott gets penalized for an uncontrolled tire. Almirola leads the start of stage 3. Harvick goes 3 wide with DiBenedetto and Logano for 2nd and takes it. Blaney comes in for a splash and go with 40 laps to go. Almirola pits from the lead with 36 laps to go and gets 4 tires. Harvick gets out in front of Almirola when he only takes 2 tires, which ends up being the winning move. Figures. Pit strategy ends up being the race winning move. Hamlin inherits the race lead, and he pits with 33 laps to go. It takes just 2 tires. Stenhouse tried to stretch his fuel 50 laps to the finish, but it didn't work. We had 7 overall lead changes with 30 laps to go, and I was like, man, that really sucks ass. McDowell tries to catch Newman for the lead. Both will have to pit at some point. We had our second pure lead change on lap 109 when Michael McDowell passed Newman for the lead. This one was ultimately pointless, though, because both guys would end up coming into the pits. And then Buescher pits with 17 to go, which cycles the lead back to Kevin Harvick. Alex Bowman has a flat right rear tire, but makes it back to pit road. Christopher Bell gets by Truex for the 4th position. Hamlin starts closing in on Harvick for the race win with 10 laps to go. Kyle Busch gets by Truex for the 5th position. Joey Logano loses a left front tire with 7 laps to go, but makes it back to the pit road. Hamlin starts reporting that the vibration that he had been feeling was starting to get worse. He's a half second back with 2 laps to go, but is unable to make any kind of move on Kevin Harvick, and Kevin Harvick finally gets his first Pocono win. This race sucked ass. We had 10 overall lead changes in this race. Only 2 of them were pure lead changes, and realistically only 1 of them was a legit pure lead change. So yeah, this race sucked. So top 10 results for this race. 1 second. Alright, so Kevin Harvick wins the race. He only led 17 laps, but they were the laps that counted. Denny Hamlin finishes 2nd, Eric Almirola 3rd. Christopher Bell finished 4th after starting 36th. That's pretty impressive. Kyle Busch in 5th, Martin Truex Jr., Clint Boyer, Micah McDowell finishes in 8th. That's a front row motorsports car finishing in the top 10 legit. Brad Keselowski in 9th, and Chris Buescher rounds out the top 10. As for my final rating for this race, 2.75 out of 10. This race was trash. But unfortunately, the next race, the Sunday edition, in my opinion, was even worse. Fuck. Let's get into it. Alright, so Pocono 350, the Sunday edition. Slightly longer race. And this one sucked even worse than the first one. Stages worked down like this. The first stage was 30 laps, and then stages 2 and 3 were 55. Halfway point was 70 laps, which was kind of a thing because there was lightning and rain and all that other shit, and they were also racing towards darkness. So that was a bit of a factor. Kind of crazy that we're 15 races into this race, or into this season. 9 races have been affected by weather delays of some sort, and 3 races have been postponed by a full day. And yet these big television networks want to insist on starting these races at 3-4 p.m. Eastern time. You know, and it's like, you're fucking stupid. You know, Fox and NBC, get your fucking heads out of your ass, okay? You know, I know you're doing it, you know, to give the West Coast audience a chance. My advice is those West Coasters just need to get up a little bit earlier to watch the damn race. Because these 3 and 4 p.m. start times, especially in the middle of the summer, is fucking stupid. Especially at these tracks that have no lights. Because that just increases the risk during the summertime of pop-up showers and thunderstorms come just popping up out of nowhere when you have intense heat like this. And you know, the NASCAR fan base, they can be divided on a lot of things, but it seems like one thing that they've been universally agreeing on is the fact that these 3 and 4 p.m. start times are fucking stupid. You know, we need to go back to the fucking at least 1 p.m. start times. That way you'll have at least a little bit of time in case there is a little bit of weather. That's just my 2 cents. But anyways, let's get through this review. Ryan Preece was going to start from the pole due to the top 20 invert, but had to go to the rear of the field for an engine change. Lightning in the area delayed the start of the race because, of course. Kurt Busch starts from the pole. We had some 3 wide in the mid-pack at the start. He leads lap number 1. Ryan Blaney gets by Cole Custer for second. Tyler Reddick reports that he has lost power steering already, which is crazy, and he also lost the water pump belt, and his car was running super hot. It was like over 300 degrees at one point, which is pretty crazy. And then the first caution came out on lap 4 for rain, so we had about an hour-long rain delay because, of course, because Mother Nature fucking sucks. So we go back under yellow, trying to get back going again. And we do eventually get back going again. They actually make it to the end of the race, which is actually pretty crazy. Kurt Busch leads on the restart. Chris Buescher in third. Christopher Bell in fifth. DiBenedetto gets by Buescher for third. Then we have our second caution on lap 16 when Michael McDowell hits the wall hard in the tunnel turn on the driver's side after his right rear tire goes down due to earlier contact with the wall. Several cars come in for service. So Kurt Busch leads on the restart. Harvick up into the top 5 after starting 20th. Logano catches the grass a little bit in turn 3. Nothing, you know, too bad there. We have some battling in the midfield. Blaney trying to battle Kurt Busch for the race lead, but is unable to get around him. And that was basically the theme of the weekend. You just couldn't pass the leader whatsoever. It seemed like the only time we saw any lead changes whatsoever was on restarts and during exchange of pit stops. That's it. And that's fucking stupid. Several drivers pit before the pits close, of course. Bell gets by Buescher for third. We have a battle for fifth between Kez, DiBenedetto, and Buescher. And Kurt Busch wins stage number 1, leading all 30 laps. With the exception of Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, and Brad Keselowski, all the leaders who did not pit under green that time come in for service. Kurt Busch leads the start of stage 2, which is 55 laps. Blaney manages to clear Busch for the lead in the tunnel turn, no pure lead change. Kez gets by Kurt for second, and then we have our third caution on lap 39 when Christopher Bell backs it into the tunnel turn wall. Looked like he just lost it. Several drivers come in for service, and Blaney leads on the restart. Then we have our fourth caution on lap 46 when Chris Buescher spins off turn 3 and backs into the wall after getting up into the loose stuff in the outside lane. course, he might have been pushed up a little bit there as well. But how that wasn't a bigger wreck was beyond me. Once again, several drivers spin for service. Blaney leads on the restart. They fan out 3 wide on the front stretch. Kyle Busch gets by Bubba Wallace for 3rd. Hamlin gets by DiBenedetto for 5th. And then Kyle Busch gets by Truex for 2nd. Blaney makes his first scheduled pit stop from the lead at lap 58. So Kyle Busch inherits the race lead. And then he pits on lap number 60, and Hamlin assumes the race lead. Harvick gets by DiBenedetto for 2nd. Battle for 3rd between DiBenedetto, Elliott, and Keselowski. We make it to the halfway point, but then the race really starts to drag at this point. And then a big surprise on lap 75 with our fifth caution. Ryan Blaney tries to go 3 wide with Kyle Busch and a lap car in the tunnel turn, but actually gets into the left rear of Kyle Busch and puts him into the inside wall, and Kyle Busch was understandably not happy about that. I mean, that was a bit more of an aggressive move than I would expect from Ryan Blaney at that point in the race. Most of the lead lap cars come in for service. Bowman gets penalized for equipment interference. So apparently his pit crew interfered with someone else's pit stop with their equipment, which I don't think I've heard of that one before. Kez stays out and leads on the restart. Almirola takes the lead on the restart. No pure lead change there. We have a 6th caution on lap 81, which was actually the final caution of the day. Ryan Preece loses it in the tunnel turn and kisses the inside wall, which led to a bit of a Dukes of Hazzard moment with Bubba Wallace, and he even said on the radio that he needed a new pair of pants. Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon alluded to as much as well, so that was kind of funny. Daylight remaining was starting to become a factor at this point because sunset is 8:38 p.m. Eastern, and they could run for a few more minutes after that, so it was getting pretty close. Almirola leads on the restart with 2 laps to go in stage 2. Kez gets the lead on the restart, and Brad Keselowski wins stage 2. Once again, no pure lead change, because it was on the restart. Several drivers come in for service, and then we get our 3rd and final stage. 55 laps. Kez leads the restart. Kurt Busch gets by Newman for 2nd, and then Harvick gets by Kurt Busch for 2nd. And then Hamlin gets by Kurt Busch for 3rd. Elliott by Newman for 5th. Keselowski pits from the lead with 45 laps to go. Harvick inherits the race lead. Elliott gets by Kurt Busch for 3rd, as Kurt continues to backslide a little bit. Jimmy Johnson gets penalized for an uncontrolled tire, which was pretty obvious. It bounced out in the middle of pit road. And then Logano gets a penalty for driving through too many pit boxes. Bowman and Boyer start battling for the 4th position. Harvick pits from the lead with 35 laps to go. Hamlin stretches it out a little bit longer because the older tires seem to be a little bit better the longer they go. So Hamlin pits from the lead with 21 laps to go. Is able to stay in front of Harvick. Truex pits in the lead with 16 laps to go, which hands the lead back to Hamlin. Harvick starts reporting a possible loose wheel, which is similar to what Hamlin had in the first race. Keselowski has to pit for fuel with 4 laps to go, which tells me that they didn't get the tank fully fueled. And that was pretty much it. Denny Hamlin wins the Pocono 350. Absolutely nothing fucking happened in this race, especially in that 3rd stage. I mean, yeah, it went green the entire way, but absolutely nothing fucking happened. And you might say, well, what about the strategy? I mean, there was some strategy, but the problem was it took so goddamn long to develop that during that long stretch, literally nothing happened. There was no passing going on. You couldn't catch the fucking leader. I mean, it was boring as fucking batshit. I mean, you did have Boyer and Bowman kind of slam into each other coming to the finish, which would have been cooler if it wasn't for anything other than 8th place. You know, you might say, well, every position matters. It used to matter back when we didn't have this shitty playoff format. But I mean, we had 11 overall lead changes in this race, which was one more than the first race. Slight problem though. This race had 0 pure lead changes. There was not one legit lead change this entire fucking race. Which means that in 675 miles of Pocono racing this weekend, we had 21 overall lead changes, but we had 2 pure lead changes, but realistically only one of those was by drivers who were legit contenders for the win. So literally we only had 1 pure lead change between 2 races. That is fucking unacceptable, especially when you consider that Talladega had 43 pure lead changes by itself. I mean, I realize that Pocono is not exactly the best track in the world, but I expected better than this fucking bullshit. I expected to not be put to sleep. I mean, that's fucking embarrassing. 0 pure lead changes this entire race? Get the fuck out of here. And some people are trying to convince me that, oh, it was a decent race. No, it fucking wasn't. Stop lying to me like that. This race was fucking trash. I would argue that this race was even worse than the first race. But anywho, let's take a look at the fucking race results and get this done and over with. Denny Hamlin, of course, with the win. He led 49 laps. Got his 6th win at Pocono, which ties him with Jeff Gordon for the all-time record. Harvick finished his 2nd, so we literally, those two literally just swap positions. Eric Jones in 3rd, Chase Elliott 4th, Eric Almirola in 5th. That's his 4th straight top 5. Matt DiBenedetto, William Byron, Clint Boyer, Alex Bowman, and Martin Truex Jr. are your top 10 for race 2. So, let's go to the point standings. Kevin Harvick has opened it back up on Ryan Blaney now, who is 2nd. He has a 52-point lead and is looking pretty good to take the regular season title, which has 15 playoff points that comes with it. Brad Keselowski 3rd. And then we have Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin in the top 5, and then the rest of the top 10. Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, and those are your race winners this year. And then you have Eric Almirola, the first of the non-winners, in 9th position. And then you have Kurt Busch in 10th. Kyle Busch is 11th. He has 8 top 10 finishes out of 15 starts, but no wins, no stage wins. He has no playoff points right now. And he's the defending champion. Just absolutely crazy. Jimmy Johnson in 12th, Clint Boyer, Matt DiBenedetto, William Byron, and Eric Jones are your playoff field at the moment. And then on the outside looking in the top 20, you have Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Chris Buescher. As for my final rating for the Pocono 350, 1.5 out of 10. It was fucking garbage. And, you know, this was, you know, snooze fest all the way through. You know, and then there will be people like Steve O'Donnell and some of these other, you know, NASCAR pundits who will get mad at me for having that opinion. And you know what? Too fucking bad. Both of these Pocono races were fucking trash. You know, and I have higher expectations. You know, I mean, yes, I am hard on NASCAR at times, but that's because I have high expectations for NASCAR. I know what they're capable of. Talladega certainly fucking showed it. And then when you get a bunch of fucking bullshit like this, boring ass racing, absolutely nothing fucking happening, that's not what I look for in my racing. I'm sorry. At least I tell it like it is, and I know what I fucking want from my auto sports. That's gonna do it. I'm done talking about this bullshit. And we're gonna have even more bullshit probably next week because we got fucking Indianapolis. And my review on that race from last year is actually, you know, still the most viewed video I have on my BitChute channel. Which is crazy. But I'm done talking about these fucking races. And we got more bullshit next week. Whoop-de-doo. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packerman signing out. Bye.
You better like and subscribe or face the consequences. You have been warned.